All right, and we are live. I got Steven Sanzeri, and I also have Sophia joining us, and we're going to be talking about a very interesting case here today about a young man by the name of Ronnie Cole. And this happened a couple years ago. I totally missed this. This happened back in 2017, June of 26, 2017. A Mariposa man disappeared after jumping into the river. So that's the official story. That's their story, and they're sticking to it, apparently. This 19-year-old kid jumps into the river. A 19-year-old man from Mariposa hasn't been seen. This is an article from June 26, 2017. A 19-year-old man from Mariposa hasn't been seen since Friday while swimming in the river in Mariposa County, according to the Mariposa Sheriff's Office. So that's where this whole thing starts. You just have this kid who was with two friends, Ronnie Ray Cole, and two of his friends went to an area known as Cable Beach, a little more than a mile away from the Bryceburg Visiting Center. Deputy said in a statement, Cole jumped into the river wearing blue jeans and black shoes around 2:45 p.m. on June 26. Nothing too crazy so far, but obviously we wouldn't be here if there wasn't some questions that we felt need to be answered, or at least some of these issues. Obviously, the one thing that we all are looking for is evidence that this kid drowned. If it's a drowning, they should be able to prove that Ronnie Cole drowned, and that should be it. We can all go home after that. But I want to say hi to Steven Sanzeri. Hope you're doing well, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Greg. Really appreciate the time that you're putting in on this case.
Absolutely. And I want to say hi to Sophia. Thank you again for joining me here for this extraordinary case in Mariposa, California. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing great. How are you?
Not too bad. Just trying to get caught up with this case. I know there's so many cases out there that one like this always slips through the cracks, and thankfully we had some good people that actually reached out to us that wanted to see if we would be interested in covering this case, or at least taking a deeper look. So we were sent a bunch of documents on this case, and the more that I look into it, definitely the more questions that I have that basically make me second guess the theory that the police are telling us. Stephen, do you have any experience in this area with any type of authorities or anything like that in this area? How close are you to knowing the type of weird things that we know happens in Mariposa County and outside?
Well, although I wrote the book Ultimate Prey about the Yosemite sightseer murders that occurred in 1999, I had dealt with Mariposa County 5 years earlier, and it was a bounty hunt that led me to the county. And although I was also a bail agent, owned my own bail bond company in about 6 different counties north of Calaveras County, Mariposa County was virtually unknown to me, and a beautiful place and everything else. And I was chasing a bounty for another bail bondsman, and it ended up going to court on a preliminary hearing. I was arrested, and my partner was arrested, and we were set up. And that's when I first discovered the corruption up there in that county. And being a former police officer from the Bay Area, it really stung, you know. And it turned out the guy we were chasing was the drug mule from Mariposa County. We interviewed him in jail. He told us everything. And a lot of this is in my book. But I was set up. And then I go do the Yosemite case 4 years later, 1999, and I bail out a guy named Paul Candler, and I chase him. I can't find him. He has ties to Mariposa. Looks like he might be involved in the murders, and we arrest him in Alabama, June 7th of 1999. And that was a Mariposa case also. And the Yosemite murders, as you know, is one of the bigger serial killer type cases in the last 50 years. And so I saw the cover-ups, and that's what led me, when I heard about Ronnie Cole, and I've known about the Jerry Cox case up in Mariposa for the last year or so. I've worked with the National Coalition for Men on that case a little bit. Mariposa goes very, very deep. It goes into the White House, guys.
Wow. To the current White House, or just?
Oh, sure. The reason I say this is if we jump ahead to
Yeah.
In July, Mark Archuleta was murdered doing the case for Jerry Cox Mariposa, and then a week later, Judge Salas, her son was murdered in New Jersey when she was looking into the Deutsche Bank and the Lolita Express and Epstein. But this Dan Hollander, the supposed shooter who is found committed suicide all of a sudden, was the same shooter when Mark's working a case out of Mariposa. And there's a connection there.
Pretty interesting here.
Yeah.
So I got the pages all pulled up here, and I figured we'd go through some of these documents. This is dated 7/1/2017. Deputy M. Sharman. Case number MG1700827 for the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office. And I'm going to be reading some of the this is from, well, I guess since this is written by the deputy, I'm assuming. I was a little confused because some of it seemed like it was written by the coroner, but we're going to go ahead because, well, the first thing is the title is Coroner's Investigation Narrative. So let's go here. I'm going to skip through the synopsis and actually read through the details. I think the details are definitely give us a little more bang for our buck here. So on July 1st, 2017 at 12:07 hours, I was dispatched to a report of a body found in the river. Dispatch reported that they were called on a 911 call and told that the reporting party had found a body in the river, but the call disconnected and they were not able to get any more information. Ronnie Cole had gone missing in the Merced River on June 23rd. 2017, so I assume that this could be related and responded to the Bryceburg area of the river. I got to the railroad flat area when dispatch advised that the reporting party called back and said that they would meet at Bagby. Deputy Atkinson responded to the area and was told that the body was marked with a flag. He located the body and confirmed that the person was deceased at 13:06 hours. I was informed that the body was located by Jesse Cole and Bill Long, who had been searching the area for Ronnie Cole. Okay, then he responded with the search and rescue units. They went on a boat and were taken to the body. Sharman goes on, I was able to observe what appeared to be a white male subject that was face down at the surface of the water, being pushed against an underwater tree by the current. So the current was still going, but the body had stopped where this underwater tree was. On top of the subject, I could see that there was a thick layer of mud/soot, and the body was very bloated and decomposing. The deceased was naked except for one shoe, which was a dark-colored Vans shoe. The shoe, body size, location, and state of the body were consistent with the missing subject, Ronnie Cole. It's important to note that when the family, the two people, Jesse Cole and Bill Long, when they found Ronnie Cole, they couldn't really identify. They were certain, they believed that this was Ronnie Cole, but they couldn't really identify it as Ronnie Cole. But obviously the weirdest thing here is that the body is found. Body goes missing on June 26th. Washes up or is found on July 1st, and with just one shoe on, completely naked. I think that's definitely weird. You guys think that's weird too, or am I just overthinking this here? And just with one shoe on. It's not a good way to start out. I don't know. That just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, Sophia, are you up or you want me to say something?
I was just going to say I've never looked into any water deaths or anything like that. I mean, I don't understand how he would be completely naked though, unless maybe branches or something like that had caught onto his clothes and the river had the current was strong enough to be able to have it ripped off. But
So it would
Well, you know,
be.
he's got to get that pant. He's got to get that pant leg over the shoe. Okay, so if he had his feet exposed, maybe. So now that those pants have to get over the shoe.
Good
To
point.
be totally naked.
Good point.
So that's Greg hit it right on the button.
So how
To me,
does
that's highly questionable.
the shoe stay on, but the pants are off?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. And I mean, he wasn't wearing bell bottoms, man. He's too young, right? So it's going to be Levi. 99% Levi's or Carhartts up there. Probably Levi's. Didn't say anything about shorts or jump. They say anything about how he was dressed at that time of year. I mean,
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, it was really hot. He had taken his shirt off, so he didn't have a shirt on. But I'm not sure if he had socks on either. So obviously, if he had socks on, that would definitely help kind of solve the thing. Well, if he had socks on, there's no way the sock is gonna go missing and the shoe is gonna stay on. So at this point, I gotta keep just reading this right now. I gotta keep an open mind to maybe he didn't have any socks on. He just had shoes. He had pants and possibly boxers or something like that. Maybe not even that. We don't really know. And the current would have to be really strong to pull his pants off. But again, it's like, well, how does you would think it would pull both shoes off then at the same time. I'm not exactly sure what type of jeans he was wearing. I think it will be very important to know. Obviously, those jeans washed up somewhere. They're floating around somewhere, but a lot of the kids, I mean, he's 19 years old when this happens. A lot of the kids are wearing those skinny jeans. I don't know why it's not, I wore baggy jeans when I was around that age, but skinny jeans, I don't know. And Vans are not. That's another thing. Did the Vans have laces, or were they just those slip-on ones? That's also not really clear here too. But that just doesn't start off right, So I'm glad you brought that up about the pants and the shoe.
Yeah, I mean, I question that. That's just common sense for now. Do you have any photographs or anything from the autopsy or anything else?
I don't, but maybe we can talk to somebody about getting some of that, or at least maybe getting some answers to some of these questions here. We can definitely try to follow up on that. The report then, I'm now reading on page 2. Unless you have anything else, Stephen or Sophia, I'm going to keep reading along.
Go ahead.
All right. Ronnie Cole's family was waiting at the launch. So this is when the body is found. We're starting with them finding this body. He had been missing. Ronnie had been missing for several days now. So Ronnie Cole's family was waiting at the launch as they had heard that Ronnie was found. I informed the family, which included Ronnie's father, Frank Cole, that a subject was recovered, and I believed it to be Ronnie, but could not give a positive identification due to these circumstances. Oh, so I guess we could go back to the whole bloating, and how long would the body be bloating for? How long would it look that it's decomposed? How badly decomposed? And does that help us figure out when Ronnie Cole had actually died? Because we're obviously open to the theory that he had died closer to when he went actually missing, and we don't know exactly when. We have this 6 or 7 day period where we don't really know what happened to him, where he is missing, but he's found not too far, maybe 8 miles, I believe, close to 8 miles from where from where he jumped in to the water. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself on that. But his dad is also a very important person in this whole case too, because his dad seems to never waver from the fact or from the theory that his son was killed, and he even goes very far to name who he thinks did it, and all of that is documented here. So just look at what these statements are saying. Read these documents. These documents, anybody can pull these up. You can download them now. They're in several places here, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, you will find them. You'll find the link in the description. I've taken the 39 pages that I was given and just put them into one PDF. But Frank Cole, Ronnie's father, to me is definitely one that stands out for many reasons, and we're going to get into that as we go further. But we're still on page 2 here. So let's see. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. So he contacted Frank Cole. They couldn't give a positive ID on Ronnie. And Sharman goes on, they informed me that Ronnie was wearing Vans shoes and that he had recently got a new tattoo of the name Cole in cursive writing across his upper forearm. I told him that I would attempt to check further, but had not been able to see that. So if Frank Cole, the dad, knows that his son was wearing Vans shoes, Frank Cole should also be able to help us see what type of pants, what type of jeans, skinny jeans or, baggy jeans that Ronnie was also wearing, and possibly maybe if Ronnie was wearing socks. These might seem like little stupid things to some people, but, this can go a very long way to help us understand how a body washes up basically naked with just one shoe on. So that's definitely going to be a big thing. I was hoping to find in these documents more reasoning for that, what happened. I don't know, maybe somebody else knows about a similar case where something like this has happened, where a body washed up, a body got, taken down a river, and all their clothes except for one shoe is on. Maybe this is a common thing in this area. I have no idea, but definitely something that stands out. Okay, so they take the body to the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office, and upon arrival at the office, both bags are open. I was able to roll the deceased over to inspect the front side. I was able to wipe some of the mud suit away and located a tattoo consistent with one described by Ronnie's family. So they were able to find that body. Now, the mud and the suit, is that something kind of common that we would see if a body was washed down the river? Would there be mud on it? How much mud would there be? I think that was another question that I had too. If the water is so rapid, if it's rapid water, how does it get muddy? From just sitting there? Where does the mud come from? Any thoughts on that?
It would have to be dragged from the bottom.
Yeah, did they say that he was caught underneath the water by a tree that was underneath the water?
It's like a water tree, so I think the base of the water was at the bottom of the river. But let me go back and read exactly what they say here. Let's see. I was able to observe what appeared to be a white male subject that was face down on the surface of the water, being pushed against an underwater tree by the current. So that's really all they say there. So I could see that there was a thick layer of mud suit and the body was very bloated. So if he's face down, it's also important to note where the tattoo was. Where did they exactly say that the tattoo was?
On his arm, I think.
Yeah, this is on his upper forearm. So if he's face down and there's mud and the officer has to take the mud off in order to see this tattoo, it should be on the back of his forearm, not on the front. But this just says upper forearm, so that's why I think, Stephen, you're right. If we had a photo, it would definitely help. I mean, I'd settle for a drawing if they can't provide a photo.
That's a big question, Greg. Is the mud, like he was like in Predator when Arnold put all the mud on himself or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know in some of the lakes, like right down by San Jose and some of those, like a water skied, and they got kind of that black sticky mud. Up there, you got a lot of sand in the rivers because there's a lot of rock, and what rock does, it makes sand before it makes mud. And so it never really gets a chance to make mud. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mud. If he's got mud, that means he was against the bank that had grass. It was slow, and there's no current there because he's there and he's stuck there, and he's stuck in the mud, so there's not enough current to pack him in mud. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of something like that. You know, I mean, that's like I said, that's just the whole mother lode in Sierras up there. The rivers are all the same across the Sierras. And they packed up in mud. I could see them being stuck on a rooted tree into the river. I can see that. I've seen that before on anything that's got stuck there. But that's an area usually that's flowing fairly fast year-round because that's why the bank's been, excavated and the roots are showing because there is high water there, which would not create you to be packed in mud.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think any fisherman will tell you that, you know.
Another thing good to know there.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
The deceased was located and confirmed dead in the water upriver from Bagby Recreational Area. So I'm just going to make a note of that. Because I want to see exactly where this was. Hopefully one day we can get some photos, maybe even some video of kind of recreate what the weather was like, what the current was like. We know it was really, really hot.
Yeah.
These documents are going to give us a lot of that stuff. But as you're reading this, or as I'm reading this, I'm sure these are the questions that we're all thinking here. You can go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just the Bagby recreational area that I viewed earlier. It's a horseshoe bend. You notice that?
No, I didn't see that. No, the image that I was sent looks like just one kind of river, or just one line. But I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah, no. From a topographical map, which I looked at, the Bagby recreation area. When you get to that area, it makes a right horseshoe. So that means the body it didn't get pushed out and keep going down. It got stuck in that area, which is a pretty sharp turn on the river.
Gotcha. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, that.
Yeah, take a look at it. It's up. But take a look at that, and maybe they might where they get stuck at. We're probably right at the apex of that turn, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then so that's great because now we have that point. We know where they say Ronnie jumped in to this water, and then we can kind of see, well, would that take seven days? Would that take six days? How long would it take for that body to be there? And could they tell, based on the condition of the body, could they tell how long that the body had been in this area for, in this little horseshoe area for?
I mean, I'd like to talk to the witnesses to see how much of the body they saw. That they saw. Was it, they just see like, white skin of the face, or they see half the torso? What did they see when they came upon? I don't trust the Mariposa deputy's call on this. It sounds like so he was buried in mud, which I just don't think he was.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did the first eyes on Ronnie see?
And they say the water temperature was approximately 60 degrees with a slight current. So that's what it was like there.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
60 degrees water. I mean, that's pretty cold, right? Pretty cold for the water.
Yeah, that is.
For river water.
It's survivable though. I mean, bloating in a river when your stomach's distended and everything. Bloating takes about 12 hours. Is what I read earlier. So, that part of it there, that's just from ingesting water, whatever. So, was he, how bloated was he? I'm not sure they have a measurement on that.
He would have had to have drowned in the water, and then the body ends up here. That's pretty much what they're telling us, and so far it all
Uh,
sounds reasonable. So far.
yeah, like you said, the 8 miles is doesn't maybe the 8 miles is not reasonable.
Yeah, because how does he not? I mean, this is a young guy too. It's not like um, it's not like he's an older gentleman like myself or anything. He's 19 years old now. He was on drugs, and we are gonna read about that. We are gonna find out what is in his system, which is very curious too. So we're gonna
Mhm.
look at that too. But even then, it's hard to think that this guy, this young kid, jumps into the water, drowns. Nobody can find his body for 7 days, and the body just kind of pops up. Um, yeah, it takes a stretch, but yeah, the water is 60 degrees with a slight current. So let's look at the the decedent position condition. The deceased was located floating on the surface of the water, facing down with face underwater. The body was severely bloated and beginning to decompose. There was a thick layer of mud soot on top of the body. No life-saving measures were taken due to the obvious signs of being dead for an extended period of time. So the other question is, did anybody search this area, this Bagby recreational area, from the time that the Ronnie went missing to the time in between the time the body was found? Were there any other days, any other times that anybody searched this area? Because if they did, then they should have seen this body here, unless it was swept away down river at some point. But then they should have seen it even closer. So they should have at some point, if anybody had searched this area during those 6-7 days, they should have seen this body. I think that's pretty clear here.
But you made a really big point. Is this is July? People are camping. It's a recreational area, and all of a sudden, I mean, there's kids running around and everything else, and so how long was that body there for? I mean, if it was floating down the river, people probably occupied. I'm curious, how far up the river back? 8 miles. How many rest stops? Little camp spots, everything. And it's summertime. It's not February. So there's people out there, and that body went 8 miles before somebody saw it. Maybe that's a really good question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what they say is symptoms prior to death. Ronnie Cole was swimming in the river with friends when he was observed by some uninvolved subject to get pulled under the water by the current and swept downstream. So now we have other people, and this is very important here because it's not just this is kind of the basis of the police's theory here, is that since it wasn't just the people that were with Ronnie that saw him jump in and then go underwater, you have two people that were, quote, uninvolved subjects. We're going to learn that that's not necessarily true, but at this time we're hearing a lot about these bystanders, these witnesses who have no connection to Ronnie, no connection to Ronnie's friends, all that stuff, which all later on turns out not to be true. And it's all here in these documents.
Yeah, they all know each other up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that's just the way it is.
Let's see. So now I'm here on page 3. I'm gonna see if there's anything else. There's just kind of how they ID'd Ronnie. The information. He was 19 years old, born February 16th, 1998. Unmarried, described as being 6 foot tall and 150 pounds. So it's not a small kid either at 19.
No.
So that's pretty interesting. And his occupation, Ronnie Cole worked for his father doing tree work, is what it says. Which it's a very physical job there too, to do tree work. I'm not exactly sure what he was doing, unless he was just some type of a runner or something. But 6 feet. And how deep was this water? And he drowns. I mean, it's just okay. You're kind of keeping an open mind and saying, okay, well, they must have something. They must have something that shows clearly that he drowned, right? And we should find that in the coroner's report. Obviously, it should be very, very clear that, yeah, this kid drowned, and nobody found his body for however many days, 7, 8 days. So before I did say June 26th, I think, but actually the original incident happened on June 23rd. So in case I got that wrong, just want to make that clear. June 23rd, 2017, around 1500 hours, 3 p.m. Okay, so it says we're still at the bottom of page 3, looking at the death certificate information. He was last seen by Brandy Wiley. Wiley? Not sure, but she was the last person, according to this document, that saw him. Date time discovered July 1st, 2017, around 12:30 p.m., and was found by Jesse Cole and Bill Long. Let's see. Pronounced dead. They pronounced him dead when they found the body a few minutes later on. And that was Deputy Atkinson. And just looking if there's anything else. I'm moving down to page 4. This all happened at Cable Rock. This is where this happened. Cable Rock of the Merced River near Bryceburg. So that's where he went. He goes missing, quote unquote missing. He was swimming in the river when the current swept him underwater and downstream. Okay, so
Correct.
yeah.
The required tests requested full autopsy, abuse screen, and blood test. What is abuse screen?
That's a good question. I don't know what that means. Steven, you any idea what that means? Abuse screen?
Abuse, that's for drugs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, good idea. Great question there. Okay, notification of next of kin. Frank Cole, the father, and many other members were present when Cole was recovered from the river and notified by me. So there you have that. Photographs were taken throughout the recovery, so there are photographs. They do, which that should be standard, I would think, too. So I'm going to skip down, moving on to page 6 is the corrected report for the Mariposa County Coroner's Office. Stephen, anything you know about the Coroner's Office, Mariposa County Coroner's Office at all?
No, I don't. But it's interesting. They sent the body out to Stanislaus County.
Yeah, why is it? I mean, was the coroner's office that small where they didn't have a coroner, even though they have a coroner's office? Why send it all the way to Stanislaus County?
I have to look into that, but possibly that is actually the place they could do an autopsy. There may not be a mortuary in Mariposa County that can handle an autopsy, because some mortuaries can, basically. But that's what I'm thinking. And, everybody on the sheriff's department is considered a coroner, basically, up there. So.
Oh, good to know. Good to know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Because I was a little bit thrown off with that. Okay, so that's good to know there. Now, here's another interesting thing. His height at the time of death is 72 inches, which I'm assuming is 6 feet, but the weight is 180 pounds. So if he's walking around at 150, now he's 180. I always thought, I mean, looking at the David Crowley case, I kind of thought when the body is dead that they lose weight. But is there a portion where when the body is dead, when they're first deceased, do they put on 30 pounds?
He was waterlogged and bloated. It's also very possible that do they weigh them before they're cleaned off?
Oh yeah, I don't
Because if
know.
he had that mud and suit on,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
so
I'll leave that.
the mud, the
Okay.
suit combined with the water, the extra water going through him might have been the reason for the extra 30 pounds. Unless they're just guessing about the 150 that they mentioned earlier.
Could they have been going off maybe a driver's license?
They could have been. They could have been. There's no mention of a driver's license earlier, but I can tell you I'm not the same weight as my driver's license, so it's not
I
too far
know, right?
fetched. Okay, and so as Stephen was saying, the place of autopsy, Stanislaus County Coroner's Office, the prosector, I'm assuming the coroner, Sung Uk Bak, a medical examiner, MD. The body is identified by a body bag, body tag. Okay, the witnesses, Officer Hendricks from the Mariposa County Sheriff's Department, was present at the time of the autopsy. Here's the external examination of the autopsy. The body is that of a well-developed, well-nourished, extremely decomposed, and well-known as 19-year-old Caucasian male measuring 72 inches in length and weighing 180 pounds. The rigor mortis and lividity are completely disappeared due to the development of severe decomposition. The scalp is covered by a large amount of a medium to short brown hair. The skin of the entire face, eyes, nose, ears, and lips is decomposed. The oral cavity contains decomposition fluid. The upper and lower jaws show natural teeth. There is no evidence of an injury in the oral cavity. The neck is short, thin, and decomposed. There is a silver-colored metallic necklace encircling his neck, and no evidence of any injury around the neck. The chest is symmetrical and decomposed. The abdomen is soft, flat, and decomposed. See, the soft and flat kind of bothered me at first. I don't know. I don't know why. That just seems kind of weird. Okay, it goes into all that. The body parts, nothing, basically nothing really. They're not finding any evidence of any, cuts or anything like that, any markings, nothing unusual. So you just think, okay, it must have been, died of, drowning, died of some natural causes. It wasn't like he was hit. There's no contusions. There's no bruising, nothing like that. Now, if the body is so badly decomposed, would you even see that? If he was punched, if he was hit, if he was struck by something due to the decomposition of the body, would we even see any of that?
You do to a certain point where the coloration blends in with the injury, because when an injury is involved, whether it's a punch or something, when the blood goes to that area and bruises, if you pass away, it still leaves a kind of a tattoo behind the skin of that injury.
Oh.
But then you got to look, taking the color of the skin with decomposition.
I see.
And
there's probably.
Well, it bothers me because he's in the water, okay? I'm sorry, I keep harping on this, but he's in the water. There's sticks, there's trees, there's boulders, sharp things, and there's no contusions on him as the water is swift and it's taking him downstream. There's nothing.
We haven't seen any pictures. I mean, that would tell us something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. We're just not seeing it in the coroner's report. It's just, to me, it's striking me odd, but I'm not familiar with this kind of stuff. So,
I think one of the biggest questions I have is the pants coming off of a leg and the shoe remains on. This is the OJ glove, okay? and it's exactly what it is. You know, you could go to court and probably prove this, and then they slip a rubber sock in there and you can't prove it. I don't know, whatever. Point is, this is the OJ glove. How does, you know, and Greg's right. I mean, we wore bell bottoms when I was in high school in '77, and then it went on now skinny jeans. I mean, I wear skinny jeans, literally. We all do, you know, boot tight. And that doesn't just come off of over a shoe without the shoe coming off.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, I would not be able to take my jeans off with my shoes on.
Yeah, you could yank on them all day. Exactly. That's pretty much common sense too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of that,
yeah, it's odd.
Well, staying on
that's pretty, yeah. I researched bodies floating down rivers, and I've found one from 1 mile. One was 127 miles. Okay, so I think it kind of throws that out a little bit. If he hit the right current, oh yeah, I think yeah, absolutely, you go 8 miles in the right current. That's no doubt. He got finally hung up, but did it get hung up there? Was he out of the river ahead of time? It seems to me, unless he was knocked out or shot or killed, he probably would have got in and got out at one point.
Well, this autopsy says that the body is clothed in black and green socks and a black shoe on the right foot only. So he had socks on. That's what this is saying here.
And the pants were not on.
The pants were not on, and only one shoe
Yep,
on the right foot.
Did they find the pants that weren't on?
No, I don't think so. No, that's not mentioned in any of these. No.
Right, so he wearing shorts? Shorts can come off.
Shorts can come off, sure.
Swimming shorts can come off, I'm sure, yeah.
If he had boxers or briefs or something else too, it's just kind of weird that, yeah. How does I don't know how to. It's just weird about his shoes and the sock.
What about the missing persons report? Wouldn't that have exactly what he was wearing that day?
I think it does, and I don't know if that's included in this here. It might be included later on, when they go back to when the body was first missing, and they do a search, and then they call that search off. They called the search off pretty quick, and the dad is not happy about that when they call that search off, because it got dark. And then they went back the second day, and they started searching. But okay, giving them 24 hours. I think this is another thing to think about. Everybody listening to this, everybody watching this, giving them 24 hours to search. Right? We know that they were searching. They've been searching for 6-7 days, 8 days now. But can they walk this area from the point of where he jumped off of Cable Rock to the Bagby recreational area? How many times could you walk that within 7-8 days? And what are the possibilities that if you walked along the river that you would miss a body floating in the river, floating somewhere along that river? It just doesn't add up. So I can see why Ronnie's father and other people have questions, and had questions from the very start. It makes sense. Let's see. The great vessels of the thorax and the abdomen are identified and are unremarkable. Both pleural cavities and the pericardial sac. Yeah.
Oh, great. Can we digress back about a paragraph?
Go ahead. We're still on page 6 and 7 here. Go ahead.
Okay, so regarding the Bagby in the Cable Rock area, they're almost synonymous on the internet. So there are two main areas on that river people camp, and there's pictures of Cable Rock with 6 or 7 tents and people swimming. And you know, there was more people around it than a group of 4 or 5 or 6 people. I I don't think so. When you start looking at Bagby and even Cable Rock, they're pretty popular areas. This isn't the local kids swimming hole.
Interesting. So they should have seen it.
And
They should have seen him somewhere.
Yeah, and if you look at the Merced River and that stretch there, there's a lot of calm water between there. There's picnic benches around Bagby.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looks like there's a concession down there too. It's a pretty popular place.
In the respiratory system, there's nothing weird mentioned there. Everything kind of seems normal. There's a little, they say, there's a cut surfaces are black and smooth and consistent with extremely soft due to decomposition. But shouldn't there be water? I mean, where are we going to see water in the lungs? When I spoke to the cousin, that was one of the big things that they had brought up is there's no water in the lungs. So how does a person die from drowning without
no
water
water,
in the
no
lungs?
foam, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's weird.
And this is on this autopsy is dated 7/20/2017. So I mean, by this point, they should know that maybe this isn't a drowning. And so then it goes to the point where, okay, if it's not here in this autopsy report, we're on page 7 of this PDF. If it's not here, where is the evidence that he drowned? Because the body was found in the water? Because he jumped, and it's assumed that if anybody is to jump into this water at Cable Rock, then they're gonna drown. They're pretty much dead. Is that? I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm not seeing any other evidence in any of this so far that shows, why they think that he drowned, other than people saying that, who didn't find the body, who didn't see the body. So how would they know that he drowned if they didn't see him drown? Or if there was no evidence at that point of him drowning. It just seems they were too quick. From June 23rd, June 24th, after talking to some of the people who were at this Cable Rock Park, this Cable Rock, Cable Rock, I think it's an area, whatever it is. It's an area that's called Cable Rock, but based on the people that saw him jump, it seems like at that point the police are pretty much going with the theory that he probably drowned and is dead, is missing. It just seems, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't.
Yeah, Brandy said that he's swimming toward the shore, and then she lost him, and she jumped in her car and took off. I mean, the road is not along 2 feet off the river. I mean, there's something there about her leaving so quickly to jump in her car and look for the guy. I mean, the river wasn't moving that fast.
Right. Yep, and I'm not seeing anything else here. Looking at page 8, everything is intact. The skull is intact.
Here we go. She said Ronnie was wearing blue jeans, black shoes, no shirt. So we do have blue jeans on him.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got jeans, guys, not shorts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Autopsy finding advanced decomposition, pulmonary edema, and cerebral edema. I don't know what those last two mean. Pulmonary edema, cerebral edema. Don't see anything about drowning. That's what we know. But in their opinion, at the very end of page 8, the 19-year-old Caucasian male, Ronnie Cole, died of a drowning. There were no other injuries. He had been consuming methamphetamines prior to death, but had not been drinking alcoholic beverages prior to his death. Corrected report dated 8/30/2017. A corrected report is being issued to correct the date and time found, noted in the first page of this report. Okay. dates and times, I mean, that's not that big of a deal. But I was expecting more, not an opinion, but I was expecting some type of factual data that showed that he had died from a drowning. I don't think we're seeing it here, unless I missed it. Looking at page 9 at the tox results, and Steven, this is where I'm gonna need your help here with I don't even know half of this stuff here, but there's some methamphetamines, no cocaine, opiates, PCP, barbiturates, benzonines, methadone, blah blah blah. None of that found. Just methamphetamines, and in the liver tissue, found methamphetamine and ethyl alcohol. I don't know what ethyl alcohol is, but
That means that he had been drinking it sometime. Ethanol turns into ethanol in your system. So he was drinking one time, and I looked up the methamphetamine and the D-amphetamine milligrams per kilogram, and I'm no expert at that, by the way. I'm not a chemist, but the amount they found in his body is conclusive enough to say, he was under the influence at the time. Because 8 days later, how much is going to be out of your system, and it also depends on whether you snort it, swallow it, or shoot it, and those will show different measures in post-mortem also. So it definitely was. I'm working a case now with an elderly man under a conservatorship, and he passed away from a dog bite. And the first autopsy report back on his drug screen is methamphetamine. So we have an elder abuse case because people just don't take meth. So that's definitely just a positive in this here. The thing is, was his condition part of his accident? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's an argument maybe there. I don't know.
Sophia, anything to add there, or else I'm gonna keep moving on here to page 10.
No, let's keep moving.
Okay. So now we're looking at the narrative written by Deputy M. Cantor, dated 6/23/2017. So this is when he goes missing. This is how it all kind of starts. This is the earliest police report that they have here. So on 6/23/2017 at approximately 15:46 hours, I was dispatched to the Bryceburg area at Cable Rock in Mariposa County for a missing person. Upon arrival, I met with a reporting party, Brandy Wiley. Brandy stated Ronnie Cole jumped into the river and never made it back to shore. Search and rescue was dispatched to the scene at approximately 20:30 hours. Search efforts were called off due to poor lighting and swift water conditions, and will resume the morning of 6/24/2017. Ronnie Cole was entered, so they were entered into the search and rescue incident. So it's not a whole lot of time. They searched for about 4 hours. I mean, that's 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. I mean, I don't know. I know that's one of the things that really pisses off Ronnie's dad, is that how early they called that search off, due to poor lighting. But I don't know. Maybe they've never utilized spotlights or something like that. But that just seems, I don't know. It just seems kind of early to call it off. But whatever. Maybe I'm nitpicking there. But so. Upon arrival, I met with reporting party Brandy Wiley and Debbie Jean Cogden. So these are the two people that were with Ronnie. Brandy stated she and Debbie picked up Ronnie from Highway 49 South and Ashworth because Ronnie's vehicle was disabled. Brandy stated the three of them went down to Bryceburg area of Cable Rock to cool off in the river while waiting for the tow truck to arrive to tow Ronnie's truck. Brandy stated at approximately 14:30 hours, Ronnie jumped into the river approximately 50 yards east of Cable Rock. Brandy stated Ronnie was swimming towards shore, and then Brandy stated she lost sight of Ronnie at around Cable Rock. Brandy stated she got into her vehicle to try to find Ronnie along the bank, and he was nowhere to be found. I asked Brandy if there was any alcohol or drugs involved, and she stated no. I asked Brandy what Ronnie was wearing. She stated blue jeans, black shoes, and no shirt. Brandy was clearly upset and stated her and Ronnie were down at Cable Rock 2 weeks ago, and Ronnie jumped in the water then. So jumped in the same water 2 weeks ago. No problems. We don't know how strong the current was, I guess, at that point. But this is the official theory here. This is what we are getting here. So this is what police have to start with, right? I mean, Stephen, let's say you are the officer who shows up here, and you hear this. You got to take it seriously, right? And you have to assume that what Brandy is saying is true.
Yeah, you're not the court and judge on the scene. You take action that is directly related to whatever emergency it is, and you sort it out later. She says the guy went in the water, and we see two picnic plates there, and she's by herself. A guy probably went in the water. So you go with that there, and then you sort it out later. There's a question about Ronnie going down and jumping in 50 yards east of Cable Rock. Why did he go that far to jump in away from her? She have him in sight, and she says he was swimming towards the shore. So he jumps in 50 yards away, and all of a sudden turns around and swims towards the shore. I mean, the guy wasn't that stupid.
All right, moving down to page 11. Let's see if there's anything else. So yeah, Ronnie's vehicle. So something happens with his car where he has to call a tow truck driver, and then Brandy and this other friend Debbie, they are just driving by, I guess, and happen to notice this, and they help out Ronnie, and that was basically it. But here on page 11, this is interesting because Officer D. Hoff said on that same day that she contacted Ronnie Cole at Highway 49 South due to Ronnie Cole's vehicle being disabled. So whatever happened to Ronnie's car, there's a CHP officer in that area. The officer stated it looked like Ronnie was driving too fast and tried to make the turn off of the highway and hit the curb. Officer Hoff stated Ronnie informed her that he contacted the tow company, and Officer Hoff stated she didn't make a report since Ronnie had already made arrangements for his vehicle to be towed. Officer Hoff stated Ronnie did not show any signs of being impaired, nor did she smell any alcohol emitting from his person at that time. So dispatch was advised to call out Chaplain Von Reeder and Chaplain Horst to the scene. They arrived at approximately 18:20 hours. Ronnie's father, Frank Cole, arrived approximately 1900 hours. Now this is still on the day when Ronnie goes missing. And it says, I informed Frank of the situation and the efforts that are being taken place to locate his son Ronnie. Frank appeared angry with the family members that were already present on scene and stated, now you care. It says no you care, but I think that's just a typo. I think it's supposed to say now you care. Frank seemed in disbelief and said Ronnie's probably at their property on the backside of Telegraph because he's trying to get away from Brandy. Frank took off walking west towards the first campground, stating he was going to look for Ronnie. So this is where it gets very curious here. Now we have the first time where the story is kind of changing now. So now we're getting a second side of this story where Brandy was with Ronnie and with this other friend. They were all just having fun and waiting for the tow truck, and Ronnie jumps in and accidents happen. What Frank here is saying, or what Ronnie's father is saying, is that Ronnie was trying to get away from Brandy. And so now the story takes a very curious turn here. So why would Ronnie be with Brandy if he's trying to steer clear of Brandy. Any thoughts on that?
Well, Luke, he doesn't want to be around Luke. He knows Luke probably kill him.
And Luke is Brandy's husband? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, that might be why he was trying to get away from her.
Could that be why he hit that curb? Maybe he was speeding to get away from her. Yeah.
Yeah, another related, but here's interesting, just because we're on the same subject.
Yeah.
June 23rd, 2017, when he went into the water, reported, that was a Friday, okay? So it wasn't a Thursday or a Tuesday or a Monday. There were people probably around. It was a Friday. He was found July 1st, by the way, which is my birthday, maybe that's why I'm connected now. Found July 1st, 2017. That was a Saturday. Mm. But being in the water and being reported on a Friday tells me, you know, the party started in the morning. You know what I mean? There's going to be more people there than Thursday morning or afternoon.
That's a great point. There would be more, and when it's hot out, there's going to be even more people, right? Everybody's gonna go there. We saw the same thing in Monterrey when we were out there outside of the Bohemian Grove. And it was a hot day, and so they have this little river down there. I mean, it's really nothing. There's really not much to this river, but there were tons of people out there because what else are they gonna do? It's really hot, you know. It's not. It's a poor town, so you know, it makes sense. So I think you bring up two great points. This was on a Friday, which is that starts off the whole weekend. And it's really, really hot out there. There's a chance of a lot of people being out there. So the fact that there weren't, that this body goes missing, and I mean then you have Saturday. You're gonna have people out there on Saturday, people out there on Sunday. None of them saw anything. Nobody saw. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to believe that many people over that long of a time could miss this body. In such a short area too.
Sure.
Now
Absolutely.
go ahead.
You know, October can be 80 degrees. I mean, I'm sorry, June 23rd can be an average of 80 degrees in Mariposa in that area. So there would be a time people would be swimming or being around there or whatever. You know, it wasn't cold.
Mm-hmm.
So, he goes in at Cable Rock, and like I said, Cable Rock, it looks like a nice family, camping area,
So then at approximately 8:30, still on June 23rd, this officer told Frank, Ronnie's dad, that the search efforts are being called off due to poor lighting and swift water conditions. So the water is still swift and the lighting is very poor. He informed Frank the search efforts would resume in the morning. Frank became very upset, stating, "I pay my taxes. You know how many homes I own in this town." Frank stated he was going to get his Husqvarna and go up the backside of Telegraph and continue looking for Ronnie. So I'm assuming that's another boat, I guess. I don't know if it's a boat or if it's a car.
That's a motorcycle.
That's a motorcycle. Okay. All right, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna go up and basically he's gonna continue looking for his son. There's other family members there. There's a large crowd forming at this scene. So, I'm hoping, it sounds like he wasn't the only one that was going to be there looking. So he continues looking, and the reporting officer says, it should be noted as Frank was about to leave the scene, Frank stated approximately 2 weeks ago, Ronnie told his father he didn't want to live anymore. Frank stated Ronnie told him, "This life is fucked and I can't get ahead." I asked Frank if he thought Ronnie would ever commit suicide, and Frank stated no. Ronnie was just feeling depressed. It's an interesting thing to kind of put into this, and I don't know how this came up or if Frank was asked or if Frank would it doesn't sound like he would volunteer something like that, but it just seems kind of weird. We're gonna see a few weird things in there, in these reports that kind of match that, where it's like, okay, they're putting this in here, and my mind subconsciously, it's like, okay, well, it puts doubt, it leads more credence, I guess I should say, to, okay, well, maybe this guy, maybe he wanted to kill himself. Maybe Ronnie just didn't care about life and knew that this river was dangerous, but he jumped in. He was feeling great, he was feeling good, and he just decided to just jump in. And what
You know what? That if you look it up, I'm just guessing. The choice of suicide, I think jumping in a river to drown yourself was probably way down the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would seem like that. I mean, it's something that the police would ask, right? They would want to know if he has any history like that, or if he's ever tried to kill himself, or any of that stuff. So I can understand them asking that, putting it into this document. Not, it's okay, like, it's not that big of a deal, but I don't know. It seemed kind of out of place. I don't know. Maybe that's making too much of that, but. So let's see.
I'm sorry. I just before you go on, we'll just put it on our heads. What's the MO on it being a homicide? And that's all.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point there. Okay, so let's continue on. Skip down to page 12, page 13. Supplemental report dated 6/24/2017 by Deputy J. Totten. On June 23rd, 2017, at approximately 15:46 hours, I received a report of a missing swimmer in the river near Cable Rock. I had dispatch call out. Okay, so this is another officer. He's given his testimony about what he saw. I arrived and observed the BLM River Ranger was on scene and was speaking to possible witnesses. Steven, do you know anything about what the BLM River Ranger is? It just sounds like almost like a park recreational person or something. I don't. It's a weird term I've never heard.
No, I've never seen it either. I'm reading it right now. I assume it's their law enforcement for Bureau of Land Management on a river.
What is BLM? Because I know it's not Black Lives Matter, but I forget what it is. This came up. This came up with another
Bureau
case.
of Land Management.
Okay.
Bureau of Land Management.
Bureau of Land Management.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen this come up in another case, and I was like, wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen River. No, I've never seen River Ranger, but that well, the thing is that's going to be. If it's BLM River Ranger, that's federal jurisdiction. By the way.
Oh, interesting. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It came up in that case in Oregon, right?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. Okay, so then he says he was speaking to possible witnesses. I started a downriver search from the point last seen. So I mean, again, it's like giving them 3-4 days. I'll give them 6 days. And if they're able to travel this river down, how far down this river did they actually go? And it's just, did they go to the Bagby recreation area? It seems like they should have, at least within 6 days. Somebody should have, and that will be the big problem. Yeah.
Let me add this: when you do a grid search for search and rescue, you grid extendedly to the age, shape, this, that, conditions, hills, no hills, water, no water, how fast is the water, whatever it is, and you put the grid way out there, and you start searching back also, because in normal conditions, bearing injury, a man can walk 4 miles an hour. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that you put it in the river, how fast does it move or whatever. As far as the search goes, you put the search, you start there, but you extend it that, it's going to move the body somewhere. And them not to find it earlier is a question.
And still on page 13, search and rescue volunteer David Thorpe is going to be another person that we're going to need to pay very close attention to as well. David Thorpe arrived at 1648 hours and spoke to potential witnesses. He spoke with two females that I was not aware of and did not identify. The two females were not part of the group that was with the missing swimmer. So here's where this is where, again, it gets a little interesting here with these two females, these unidentified females at this point. They told Thorpe that one of the females observed the swimmer, later identified as Ronnie Cole, go into the water above Cable Rock and swim around the rock. She thinks he was going to come around the rock and come out on the other side. She lost sight of him, and he did not come out. So this rock, because this is going to be another big thing where people see him jump in, they see him swim around this rock, and then they don't see him. So how does that work? How does it work when this is why I want to get a good visual of this area from ground level to see if you're standing where these people are, which the police are, David Thorpe is, this ranger is, they all are, so they should be able to pretty much see that what these unidentified females, what these the people that are on ground, what they're telling them, should be able to verify that pretty quickly to say.
Let me say this as a former officer, and I served in the Bay Area, not up in the mountains. We didn't have search and rescue in San Francisco, but you have a volunteer that's talked to a couple unidentified females. You know what? A search and rescue volunteer? Are you kidding me? Those are people that, like, you know, are plumbers that do other jobs. They're volunteers. They only go out when people are missing. They're not used to investigations reports. And this guy speaks to two different women, but there's no names here. I'd like to speak to those women. I mean, you know, this corroborates Brandy is that the one's up on a rock like a hawk looking down, he disappears. I mean, you know, unidentified, and it's a volunteer who interviewed him. That doesn't work that way. You know, I mean, really.
Sophia, any thoughts on that? I'm gonna. Oops, I have some echo there.
Search and rescue volunteer. I've like I said before, I'm learning all about this case, and
I am too. This is all new to me.
This is a lot of stuff that I don't know about yet. This is why it's been interesting to listen to Stephen, because at least he has worked in the law enforcement and in other fields too. So it's been helpful listening to what he has to say.
Okay, give me 1 second. Hold on for 1 second.
Okay.
No, Sophia, my background with that county is what brings me out to this, and the recent Jerry Cox case and everything. This county has been doing this for a long time.
Okay.
So the corruption leads back to the Contras and the guns in Mena, Arkansas, and Mariposa was the major West Coast distributor during the Ollie North, Contras, and Barry Seal days, and that's a record. And they don't hide it, you know. And it, you know, they don't relinquish power, and it's still the old boys network there and the whole thing. And the Gateway to Yosemite is very evil, and it has been.
Yeah, I remember you talking about Mariposa County and how it was extremely corrupt, and this was in a different conversation that you had with Greg in regards to your background and the Philip
Marshall.
Yes, thank you, case. And so as soon as this case popped up and I saw that it was Mariposa County, I was like, oh, yeah, that's going to be
I know,
interesting.
you know what? You know what? I never took acid in my life, but this would be a flashback. It was, you know what? And I can tell you, it was, 20 some years ago, 25 years ago, with my first dance with Mariposa. And I was so naive back then. I'm 61 now. I was just going after a guy who jumps bond, and people saying that you're getting set up, and I found out I was getting set up by the cops in Mariposa. It's a record, and I had to go to trial. It cost me $50,000 to defend myself in 1995, 96 when I was going to be indicted. I was looking at, my attorneys told me I was looking at 3 to 5 years in prison, and I did nothing wrong on the bounty, and I had to prove my case, and I did. And I think it cost my marriage and everything. And so I have a very deep, dark relationship with Mariposa County. And when you're a former police officer, it really makes it worse.
Yeah, that's not cool.
I know it is. I'm a pretty good guy, but I mean, I just do my job. But when
and at least you're upfront about it too.
Oh
you're
yeah,
like, hey,
sure.
this happens.
Hey, people, it happens. It does happen. And and when I researched it years later and how it tied it into Clinton and Mariposa and the cocaine, and there's an excellent book out by Dennis McDougal, who's a former Los Angeles Times criminal reporter for 20 years. He also wrote the first book on Kerry State and the Yosemite case, and I give kudos to Dennis. He was just on with William Ramsey last week, and he just wrote another book. But his book, The Last Mogul, about Lee Wasserman in Hollywood, and it ties all the cocaine. It ties all the cocaine to Yosemite Park. All the cocaine in Hollywood in the 70s went through Yosemite Park. Guess what? Mariposa's right there. That they control it, and it's all true.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually did buy your book. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet. So.
Oh, it's great.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
you'll love it.
it's a fast read, and we've been on a couple of shows with Greg, so you know how I am. You'll hear me speaking through my words. You go, oh yeah, that's how he is.
All right. Well, let's keep going here. So we talked about the 2 unnamed females. They will come into play a little bit later on. Okay, so that's one female that lost sight of him, saw him jump in. That's going to be a big part of the police's theory too. The fact that somebody who didn't know anybody involved in this said that they were in there too. So the other female was on top of Cable Rock and observed him swim by struggling and going underwater a couple times, and she lost sight of him. So we have 2 people, it sounds like, in 2 different areas, saw him struggling, going underwater, and then they lose sight of him. That's it. I mean, it's really just they lose sight of him, he's missing, done. Okay. No evidence of drowning. I mean, just because you lose sight of him because he goes under a couple times, and I don't know. It's just I just have a really hard time with that. We do have some people in the chat room here too. Catherine is joining us in the chat room. She wants me to ask you what eddies and strainers are. I don't know.
Eddies in the streams are areas where the water will come down like on a flow over a rock where it's maybe a little bit fast and then settle into a pond type, maybe a deeper area, but it won't move anything. It'll mostly go lower. So it's kind of a still water after rough water.
Interesting. And strainers, is that similar? Or?
No, it was streams. It was stream.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called an eddy. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, Catherine. Keep those questions
That's what
coming.
I'm thinking might have happened with his body, where it got, as he was going down, it kind of got caught onto the tree, and then it kind of created like the, I guess what Stephen said was the eddy, where it's almost like a pool area, and that's where the soot and the dirt started gathering on top of him. But I'd have to see that area to be able to know for sure. This is just an educated guess.
Nice. Okay, I see what Catherine is talking about here, where they say the volunteers, the ranger and deputies did a hasty search downriver. From the point last seen, we checked near the bank in eddies and strainers, looking for any signs. They had a CHP helicopter, arrived at 1700 hours, and started searching downriver. So they had hours, 1700 hours, and then it's called off at 2030. So, I mean, that's 3.5 hours of a CHP helicopter being able to go back and forth. I guess I don't know how many times it went back and forth, but still a lot of time to. I mean, it just seems like if there was a body there in that river, they would have seen it. I just feel like somebody would have seen this.
You know what? You just hit another nail on the head, Greg. You know, we're talking a helicopter up in the same day, probably up the second day too, and third day. But you know, the body's not moving 30 miles an hour. It's moving, 2-3 miles an hour, whatever it is, 2-3 miles a day. I mean, 1 mile, whatever it is. And you know what? The helicopter is gonna fly that distance, short distance, and yeah, you're gonna see that thing. It's gonna stick out, I believe. I mean, unless it was underwater and trapped underneath a rock, yeah, I agree.
And don't they have like heat seeking or heat sensors on these helicopters?
Oh, well, yeah. The helicopters, unless it's in a big city, the helicopters never fly at night in the mountains ever.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the reason they pull. Search and rescue it's so dangerous for guys in a river at night and little headlamps. That's why the searches are always called off in certain situations when it gets dark.
Okay, thank you.
So let's see. Units actively search from Cable Rock to Willow Placer Campground. So that's another thing to know. Where is this Willow Placer Campground in relation to where the body is found in the Bugbee recreational area? So we can see then by that how far down they actually went. So that I'm just going to make a note of the Willow Placer Campground, something to check up on. How far down does that go? The water only goes one way, so it's it isn't like a body that's moving up and down this river. It seems like it's just moving one way. But they searched until sundown with negative results. Okay. I advise patrol units to frequently check the area until the search could resume in the morning. So that's pretty interesting too. Let's see. Per Dreamflow's website, the river flow below Bryceburg at noon on Friday, June 23rd, 2017 was 7.750 cubic feet per second. They have to translate that for me. And the water temperature was estimated in the low 50s Fahrenheit. So the flow being I'm going to write that down too. Flow being 7.750 cubic feet per second. Okay. And the water is below 50 Fahrenheit. That's on page 13 of 39. All right. Let's move on here. This is for another deputy, Ramirez, still dated 6/24/2017. Pretty much they're gonna give the same type of thing. They went down, they went to check. They had a boat that went and checked upstream from Bagby, along with SAR member Jim Bishop on a personal watercraft. So they went approximately 3 miles upstream. They're in Bagby. I mean, if I'm looking at this on page 15 here, it kind of looks like they checked this area. So if they checked this area, didn't find the body, 6-7 days later the body turns up there, they got a big problem with their theory that this guy drowned, the body went down river, and nobody saw it for 7-8 days.
I don't know if you've ever looked into the 411, the missing 411 cases.
Yeah.
But those happen a lot, where somebody goes missing, they have searchers out there looking, and they cover this area over and over and over, and then that's where the body's found, like right there, out on the trail in the wide open.
Oh, well, you're exactly. When I was working a little bit of the Chandra Levy case before they found her body, I talked to a few people. I met with Chandra Levy's parents, but I didn't do anything with the case specifically. But when you take 500 guys at a D.C. police academy and everybody else, and a month later, 2 private investigators find her under some leaves in D.C., yeah, they move the bodies all the time.
Sorry, I totally did not hear a single word you said. The kids were screaming in the background. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to stay on, actually, Greg.
Okay. However long you can. So the dive team members checked the eddies and calm water on the river right in several places. So they had dive teams there too. In addition, BLM Rangers briefed the commercial rafting companies and guides. It should be noticed approximately 20 rafts floated in the area during the afternoon hours. So that's the thing. I know, Sophia, you had brought this up about any other rafts or any other people in this area. This does say on page 15 that there were approximately 20 rafts that floated in the area. I'm assuming, you have to rent those rafts, so that means there are people in those rafts floating in that area. You would think somebody would have seen something.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking too. I mean,
wow, you know what? I just read that. That's so true.
That's kind of weird. Going down to page 16, supplement 03, June 24th, 2017. This is written by Charmin, whatever, however you pronounce it. And he continually briefed multiple family members on what was occurring and any other questions they had. I informed the family, including Ronnie's father, Frank Cole, that due to lack of leads in locating Ronnie and low likelihood of a rescue, that search efforts would be decreased before ceasing altogether for this time. So, okay, at some point they already know, look, we got to call off this search, at least for the night. I explained that we had done all that we could do and that anything further would endanger the lives of the SAR volunteers until the water receded. The family was understanding and thanked us for our efforts.
Okay.
That's page 16 there. Then we go down to page 17 on 6/27/2017. Another deputy.
Great. So we have approximately 3 days before they search again. Is that what they're saying? Because they ended on June 24th. We don't know if they went back out again. We got the other search with the helicopter 3 days later. I just wondered, did they do something between then and there?
Yeah, it sounds like so far, they're just on June 23rd when the body goes missing. They call off that search. They go back on June 24th. They're looking around again. How much area can they cover here?
Right.
and they don't find anything. They don't find any
Here's
bodies.
the caveat on this thing. They were done with the search with endangered search and rescue volunteers until the water receded. That could be a month from now.
Gotcha.
I mean, water receding, they can walk along the shores. So I'm questioning that. And go ahead, we got the chopper up 3 days later. I just
Gotcha.
on
I see.
that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that's why here on
Yeah.
page 17 where they come back. Yeah, and at approximately 0830 hours, they conducted a helicopter overflight from Bagby to Cable Rock. Now, this Bagby is very important because that's where the body will be found. You only hear about Bagby really in the early stages, in these early documents, but it's not really brought up. Well, if they search this area, what is the likelihood that they could have missed this? Searching from Bagby to Cable Rock, searching from Cable Rock to Bagby, flying overhead, going downstream, taking a motorcycle like Ronnie's father did. What is the likelihood that they would search this area, not find the body, and then we have another missing 411 case where a body just ends up in some area that they've previously searched? It's strange.
Well, you know, there was a family member that actually found the body, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you have a family member 8 days later that finds the body, and you have 20 rafters in there. It's like next to 4th of July. You got 8 miles. It's occupied. It's summertime, and the helicopter's flying over, and the guy on the motorcycle, and they don't see somebody floating down the river or caught up earlier or whatever. There was a lot of action on that river for 8 miles, Greg. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this says that the helicopter was about 30 feet above water. So that's, I mean,
Whoa!
they should see something.
You might as well have a boat. That's fantastic. How come they didn't see anything?
Because there was nothing there, apparently. I mean, that's the only logical thing, right?
You know what? Let's think about this. 30 feet off of the deck on a chopper up the Merced River between Bagby and Cable Rock. 30 feet. They have that kind of opportunity. It's safe and everything else. I mean, come on. I didn't realize they were 30 feet. I mean, I could spit that far. You know? I mean, Greg, and they can hover? I mean, wow. Okay.
They missed it.
Well, because it wasn't there, like you're saying.
Yeah, and they went by twice. Yeah, it looks like they went by twice too. So it wasn't just like they flew over once; they flew over twice and didn't see anything.
You know what? Why did they only fly over twice? And that's, I mean, you got somebody missing. That chopper should be up for the next 5 or 6 days, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy went in the river. He's going to be in the river. So, but even then, like you said, 2 days of flight. We weren't there. We don't know. But I've never been up in one on a search and rescue, so I don't know. But I think at 30 feet, you can see the fish.
I would think so.
I just did.
Yeah, so they do that twice on June 27th, first time at 8:30, and then the second time at 1 p.m. So, and that's all that they say. That's on page 17. Page 18, now we're getting into, starting at page 18 is where they this is where they find the actual body here. So we've kind of covered a lot of that. But this is an interesting thing. So Detective Charman, I need to settle on if I'm going to call him Charman or Sharman. I'm just going to call him Sharman. Detective Sharman drove to the Bryceburg area to check, but was advised that the reporting party called back and said that it was near Bagby Recreation Center. So there were 2 calls. Something happened when... Okay, so let me go back here. On July 1st, 2017, at approximately 12:07 p.m., The dispatch advised Detective Charman that they received a call on 911 that someone had found a body in the river, but the reporting party lost cell service and they were unable to get any more information. I always thought that that was kind of weird. Um, and I'm not clear about, the person calls back. They want it just seemed like at this point somebody wants the police to find this body. They want to find this body. At this point, you have to think that I mean, this kid goes missing on June 23rd. You have to think that the theories about what happened, everything, who might have been involved, all this stuff is festering. It's building up. It's more questions. The more that they don't find this kid, the more theories are being thrown out, the more accusations as to who was involved, as to if there was any foul play, all that stuff. And then on July 1st, somebody calls and tells them where the body is. So this isn't like they were still searching for this body. This is somebody calling twice and letting them know where the body was. It just always seemed weird to me. It always kind of stuck out to me a little bit.
Oh no!
So, July 1st, that's when they called the body in.
July 1st, yes, at 12:07.
And when was the second time that it was called in?
So,
same day?
Let me just. Yes, so that same day, at maybe a couple minutes later. So they called 911. They lost cell service, and then I guess they called back. So within a couple minutes.
Okay.
So
Honestly, I don't see that as odd.
yeah, I know. No, I mean the whole thing to me is odd. Everything is odd. So what I'm trying to figure out is to take what I think is odd and to make sense of it. So as long as there's some sense that I can make, then I can discount that odd thing as just something that at first might seem odd, but there's a logical reason for it.
Greg, we don't know who the RPO reporting party was on July 1st, do we?
I think we're going to find out. I think as we keep reading on here, I do think we find out who that is. I believe so. So we're still on page 18 here. So they go and check this area. The police go with search and rescue units, and they go and check what appeared to be Ronnie. And we've already covered how the body was found, all of that. It was gone for eight days, so they were able to collect the body, etc., etc. And they thought that it was him, and that's all for this one on page 18. So going down to page 19 by Deputy Hendricks. This is dated 7/3/2017. On July 1st, 2017, I was contacted by Sergeant Land, who stated Ronnie's body had been pulled from the water and that his family said they believed he was actually murdered. So the family, at this point, thinks that he was killed. Hendricks goes on, I was advised that due to Frank's frame of mind at this time that it would be better that I contact him tomorrow. I was also advised that Frank had been informed that there were witnesses from out of town that saw Ronnie jump in the water, but he was in denial. This whole thing, starting at page 19, this is where it's like subconsciously, they're giving me everything that I need to doubt what Frank is saying about his son being murdered. It's just a weird way to start this whole thing. I don't know. It's just another interesting report here that I see. So let me keep going on. So Frank was in denial. From having previously reading this report, I knew that SAR had made contact with someone but did not get a name or contact information. Maybe they didn't. Okay, so I checked Facebook and read any comments and posts related to the incident. I found that someone named Juliana Thomason had made a comment on the sheriff's office press release that stated, "My friend literally saw the young man jump off the rock." Now here's another thing. So, and I've seen this with other cases. It's you have the reports where anybody who kind of casts doubts on the official theory is they're reported about in a weird way. They're not in the right frame of mind. And then you have those Facebook posts, the random Facebook posts where somebody pretty much is saying what the police said is true. My friend literally saw the young man jump off of the rock. Somehow that is supposed to lead to Ronnie jumping off, and because they saw him jump off, subconsciously, I'm supposed to think that means that he fell in, drowned. I mean, when I was reading this for the first time, that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, okay, like okay, your friend literally saw him jump off the rock, so what? What does that have to do with proving or disproving whether he drowned or not? And that's all that I see here from a lot of this stuff that we're going to read from pages 19 down. It's just a lot of, well, we saw him jump because they want to make sure that they say that nobody pushed him. This is what's going to come into play. This is going to be the big question. Was Ronnie pushed or did he jump? That's going to be the big question here as we kind of wind down this session here. I think that's where all of us are going to have to say, what do you think happened based on this evidence, based on everything that we see here? At this point, I'm going to say that obviously I see more evidence to show that he did jump. As we keep reading and as we learn more and as we talk with some of the family members, we're going to hear other sides. We're going to hear other things that maybe show that Ronnie didn't jump. But that is the big question, because if it can be proven that he jumped, or if it can be proven that he was pushed, obviously we get closer to finding what the answer is to what this truth is. So that's where, at this point when I was reading this for the first time, I was like, okay, I really need to think about that. Okay, my friend literally saw the young man jump. So the officer says, I sent her a Facebook message, but she did not respond. I was later able to obtain her contact information from the Modesto Police Department. I contacted Juliana and advised her the reason for my call. She said she was not at the river, but her friend Mandy, unknown last name, was the one who had seen Ronnie jump into the river. I asked if she knew if Mandy knew Ronnie, and she said Mandy told her she did not know Ronnie. This is also very important. This Mandy did not know Ronnie, according to the friend. Okay, I'm just making a note of that.
That's interesting, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they all know each other, and like I go back to the photographs of Cable Rock, and I feel the tenth. It's a Friday in late June. There's people around.
Mm-hmm. So she said, I asked Manny, she said Manny did not know him. Juliana told me that she did not have Mandy's contact information, but would be able to get it to me on Monday when she goes to work. And the problem is, that's not what happens. So, we'll find that out later too. So on July 2nd, 2017, I contacted Frank at his residence. I told Frank that it was my understanding he had been advised that I would be contacting him today. He said he was not told. I told him that I was there to speak to him in regards to some comments he made about not believing that Ronnie had drowned. So by this point, they're all thinking, like, where is this theory coming from? Where does this theory start that Ronnie had drowned? They had just found this body 24 hours, within 24 hours here. The autopsy doesn't come back for like another month, right? It comes back, I think, July 20th. But I mean, why are we assuming that Ronnie had drowned? Period. It's so weird. So he says he wanted to know what I was told he was saying. I told him that I just explained to him and asked if he had told anyone that he believed Ronnie's death was a homicide. Frank became defensive and asked what the sheriff's office thinks happened and who I believed. I again explained to him that I wanted to hear what he had to say. Frank told me Ronnie called him on the Friday he went missing and said he was coming over to the house. Frank said he never showed up, and the next thing he knew, he was missing in the river. Frank stated Luke Wiley killed Ronnie, and Brandy Wiley was also involved. Frank said Ronnie had been slinging dope for Brandy for the past 3 months and did not want to do it anymore, so Brandy was mad. Frank said Ronnie was also dating Brandy for the couple of weeks at some point and didn't want to be with her anymore. Frank said Brandy was not willing to let Ronnie go and that if she could not have him, no one could. Frank said Ronnie had been hiding from Brandy for 3 days, and he told Frank he didn't want to see her anymore. Frank started talking about how Brandy would always come over and was not welcome there and would laugh at him when he would tell her to leave. Frank then became very agitated and said that Brandy did a quote-unquote home invasion on their house. I asked if he ever reported it, and he said he did not. He began rambling about Luke and Brandy, and they fight all of the time, and that Luke threatens her and then beats her up. Frank said Luke was mad at Brandy.
Seriously?
Go ahead.
Did he seriously write rambling?
He did. He began rambling about Luke and Brandy. That's what he said. That's exactly what he writes.
Wow.
And they fight all the time.
Yeah,
And that Luke threatens her and then beats her up. Frank said Luke was mad at Brandy for hanging out with Ronnie and did not like it. I asked Frank if he ever called to report Brandy being at his house of the home invasion incident, and he said he did not. So let me read that again. I asked Frank if he ever called to report Brandy being at his... Okay, so... All right, I told him that without documentation, I have no history that shows this occurring. He just, even though Frank is telling him what happened, he's saying, well, because you didn't report it, I have no history. But now he does have a history. Now that Frank is telling him this, it's just weird. The way this whole, I don't know, this report is just written. Yeah.
Let me say something here.
Sure.
That Ronnie got involved in the dope trade. He wanted to get out. Luke is being protected by Mariposa because Luke is a big player in the crack trade there. That's the only reason. And it goes, whether it goes to the pizza factory or whatever. So he wants to leave. Brandy probably has feelings. You know what? Brandy and Luke had a sexual relationship, whatever it was. Brandy and Ronnie. So I think that he was involved in a dope trade that he wanted to get out of that was bigger than him. And that's why Luke's out on parole now.
Yeah, I can totally see why the dad thought that he was murdered. And, I mean, wow, there's a lot more to this story.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a cover-up is what we're looking at, and a possible homicide that he didn't drown. And we're putting it together, and he's found with his pants off, but his shoe is still on. That right there, Greg, when you hit on that, I think that's huge for me, at least.
Yeah, and then how the officer was just dismissive of the father's feelings. I mean, he's already grieving as it is, but he's got legit reasons for why he's feeling this way, and he's like, I'm here to brainwash you into believing that your son drowned.
And Luke had already threatened. Yeah, Luke had already threatened him. There's witnesses there. It just, the second question with Greg is the body goes 8 miles down the river, and 8 days before July, and there's people camping, and nobody sees him in the helicopter. Nobody, he was taken and maybe tortured. I don't know, but he was placed back 8 miles downriver.
And with the type of decomp that he had, I could see that if he was outside exposed to the elements and stuff like that, but in the water that's like between 50 and 60 degrees, I just don't see that advanced type of decomp that fast.
And that's a tough call with the weather and temperature. I mean, 8 days, the body's definitely in decomposition. I don't care if you're in a freezer almost.
Of course.
My biggest thing is, you know, the way the search was conducted and the amount of I mean, it's just I've been to the Merced River, not that area, but it's big, but there's not many people. I think somebody would have saw him. You know, this kid swam that place before, and you know, we have a volunteer search and rescue guy that took a statement, and there's no names, and he's a volunteer. I mean, this is no more than the guy who runs the garage. They just run out there when somebody's missing. They're not professionals.
Yeah.
So Catherine is saying bodies decomp faster in water. The decomp matches the time missing. Okay, that's good to know. I'm asking about the weight, about the water or weight. Do they gain more weight there?
Oh, it depends on temperature. No, that's fine.
Yeah. So
to me,
go ahead.
It just seems that I'm not. This isn't my field, so.
Well, you know what? Let's put it all together. There's a love triangle between Luke Willie, Brandy Willie, and Ronnie Cole. Ronnie wants to get out of the drug trade. Brandy probably likes him. They did their thing together, whatever. Of course, Luke's not going to like it. He's looking at 7.5 years, reduced to 6 in San Quentin. He gets a parole bond, basically a 17 bond. He's out. He causes havoc. Ronnie's dead. And you know what? There you go. It's just how you going to prove that.
And so, Sophia, I think you brought up a really good point there too. Is that they, you know, the way that all this is written, it's just like they're discounting everything that Frank is saying here, and we see that from the very start. You know, it's just he's in denial. He's he's rambling about this stuff, and it's just like I don't know what their relationship is with Frank. Do they know this guy? Does he have a history of rambling or of making stuff up? Like, why aren't they taking him seriously? They don't know anything about this case yet.
That's just very offensive, just to write in a police report that these parents are going to be reading. It's very dismissive.
Yeah.
And just like, wow, you know, care level 0 right now, because you could care less about this man and what he's going through, but okay.
Yeah. It's like they don't want to hear him. Frank then started talking about how he knows exactly what happened. He said Brandy had someone chase Ronnie in a vehicle and run him off of the road, causing him to wreck his car. Frank said it was previously arranged that once Ronnie's car was wrecked, that someone would pick Ronnie up and take him to the river where Luke was waiting to kill him. I asked him how he knew this, and he said Ronnie told him. I advised Frank that a CHP officer and had stopped and spoken to Ronnie while he was waiting with his vehicle, and he did not tell them anything about being ran off the road or chased by anyone. I asked Frank why Ronnie would not have reported that, and he laughed and said he was scared. I asked Frank what Ronnie called and told about being chased and ran off the road. Frank said Ronnie never called him and that he just knows that this is what happened. Then, after then trying to tell me how he knows someone that saw it happen, he admitted he did not know of anyone who did. I then spoke with Donna Cole, Frank's mother, who he had called to come to talk to me. Donna told me that she was at the river when this happened. Frank told me he was there too. I told him I believe they were not there when it had happened, but arrived later after they were contacted and advised of the situation. Frank continually argued that he was there. So now this officer, who was not there when all this happened, is going to tell them
that he wasn't
He
there.
wasn't there when all this happened. Uh, I don't know. It just gets weirder and weirder here. Donna said that
And
she
like
would.
you said, there
Mhm.
very well could have been some history between the officer and Frank. We just don't know that because of they don't say it in the reports.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I also wasn't there. I also don't know if Frank was there or if Donna was there. But if I'm gonna say that, I should be able to have reason. So instead of just saying this cop is saying he doesn't think that Frank was there, it'd be nice to know why. It'd be nice to
yeah,
know why he thinks that Frank was not there. So I asked both. Donna said she was the first family member to arrive. I asked both of them if they were actually there at the time Ronnie went into the river, and they agreed that they were not. Donna said when she was there, she was approached by Deborah. So Debbie's the other lady, the other person that was with Brandy. So it's Brandy, Debbie, and Ronnie. Those are the three. They were driving around. Donna said she saw some other people and she had asked Deborah who they were. Donna said Deborah told her that it was Brandy and thought she said Luke, but she could not remember. So this is where it gets a little weird. Where Frank's mom, it's like, was Luke there? Was Luke not there? This is the only time where we kind of get someone who thinks Luke was there when all of this happened too. Um, while Donna was speaking with me, it appeared that Frank was attempting to influence her to say Luke was there. Donna then told me that she thought Luke was there but did not know. So she sounds like she's being honest about it. I asked her if she knows Luke, and she said she does not. She then said that she thinks he was there but did not know if he was or not. It's just weird. This whole thing is just, well, maybe yes, maybe no, but
You know what,
this. Go ahead.
Greg, you know what? Like I said, I work in Mariposa County, and man, everybody. I mean, the town is 2,500 people, man. He was there. I don't know who he is, but maybe he was there, but I never saw him before. You know what? All this is BS.
This would be good to get her statement, to get a statement from Donna. Just have her say, it sounds like he's almost feeding her things, and then you have Frank,
Sure.
who, he's making it seem like Frank is feeding her stuff, but we don't know exactly what this officer is saying to Donna to get these responses to make her doubt. Police have a good way of making you doubt something. They're very good at that. Well, are you sure? Are you 100% sure? You don't want to lie. We don't want to get you under oath. To me, it just seems like a sincere person is just kind of being badgered. It's kind of the way I took
Sure,
it.
absolutely. But Ronnie Cole's father was highly connected in that county also.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
he was
Oh,
what?
sure, yeah. No, Ronnie Cole's dad he carried a lot of water in Mariposa County.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
wow.
Maybe it's deeper. Maybe this whole thing is a lot deeper.
Yeah, no, it is definitely deeper. I mean, the thing is Luke Willie running around without restraint on parole, and nobody wants to report anything because, in my experience, they're scared to report anything.
Nothing's going to be done. He's being protected.
Sure.
Okay, great.
I had people call me from New York that left Mariposa when I was doing the Cliff Watkins case, that left the county and literally moved to New York, and because of things that had happened in Mariposa, people were threatened and they left.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm going to have to jump off. I need to go relieve my daughter from the kids because
Okay.
they have been extra special today.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we're definitely going to come back and do a part 2, and I hope you can join us for that one there too.
Absolutely, and I hope Catherine and Stephen, are you going to join us for part 2?
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great. You guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and take care of yourselves.
Thank you, Sophia.
You too. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
Let's go. Call me.
Yeah, let's finish up here with this report here.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, no, go ahead. No, I'm good with that. Go ahead.
Okay. So, still staying on Donna, on Frank's mom, which will be Ronnie's grandmother. Here we go. Donna said she saw some other people and she asked Deborah who they were. Okay, went through that. While she was speaking with me, it appeared that Frank was attempting to influence her to say Luke was there. I asked her if she knows Luke. She said she did not. She then said she thinks he was there, but did not know if he was or not. She then said maybe he was there at some time, but did not recall when. She said she recalled there being a man there. This is important because there was a man there, so it wouldn't be too hard to figure out if it was Luke or not, and thought that it might have been Luke. She said she thought she recalled Brandy state to her ex that her ex was... I'm going to reread that again. Donna said she thought she recalled Brandy state to her that her ex was coming and thought that she was talking about Luke, but that might have been 2 days later. I asked Donna if she... the whole thing, 2 days later, like, she either know... Donna clearly knows if this was 2 days later or not. It just seems like this cop is just kind of throwing in that stuff. But I don't know. Again, I wasn't there, so I can only speculate. But the cop asked Donna if she knows what Luke looks like, and she said she does not. So that is a very valid point, because how are you going to say that, it was Luke? We have to also take into account this is days later too. We're talking about asking Donna to recall something that happened 8 days prior, with all of the family there, with this cop continually asking her if she's sure or not. So I would think by 8 days later, show her a picture. She can probably tell you. If you showed her a picture of Luke, she'd probably be able to tell you if that was the guy that was there or not. The point is, there was a guy there. There was some other guy there, and this is one of the only times that we hear about any other guy there. So Donna then said that she would not be able to pick him up out if he was standing in front of her because she does not know him.
Well, you know what? You can't look at a guy and recognize him because you recognize him, but you don't know him, so you can't recognize him.
Yeah, that's like,
is that what it says?
Yeah, it just seems like a weird way to go about trying to. This also doesn't help Luke. If Luke wasn't there or anything, like you would think the cops would at least do a good job of saying, hey, here's a picture of Luke. Was this guy there? Does this look like the man who was there? It just doesn't seem like they're even giving her that option. At least the way that this report reads, at least. So she said, it's like a misnomer with they use the word grant. Donna's the grandmother, but Luke's 19. His father could be 40, and the grandmother could be 60, and I'm 61, and I see great. So we don't know it makes it sound like maybe if she was the grandmother, she couldn't see the guy. The things, everybody's connected in that area. Listen, Luke's an infamous guy in that county. We know that, and you're telling me Donna doesn't know who this guy is? Are you kidding me? He was on the front page of that paper above the fold for a year. He was the number one most wanted nemesis, whatever he is, and I'm sure Donna can see a newspaper. Yeah, put her in front of a lineup, or just show her a picture. I think it'd be easy to just get whatever she says. That's, I don't know. Anyways.
The thing is that Luke. Listen, we know Luke's a bully. I saw this stuff on Facebook. I see him flexing little weak, little fat muscles. That's just for you, Luke. Anyway, sorry, Greg. Anyway, I see a bully that nobody did anything about, and everybody, and I've seen this before in that county. And when a bully has the backing and support of a local jurisdiction, I mean, it's a license to steal, rape, rob, pillage, whatever. Nobody's going to touch this guy. And and if you're not going to touch this guy, you have to look at what's in it for this guy. And for this guy, it is slinging drugs, which he's probably doing anyway, and he's untouchable. And so there's a point, they'll burn him later. They'll put him under the bus. But I saw this with the Cliff Watkins case, and Cliff Watkins told me this himself. So this is nothing new.
That's right. Well, I think that's
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great place for us to stop here. We'll definitely come back. Maybe next Sunday at the same time we'll come back and do another show.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. You know what I mean? That'd be super. Hey, on your website, Greg, have you posted the 2020 video of Mariposa County?
No.
Oh yeah. I'll send you the link, I guess. But if you type in Mariposa corruption, it'll pull up the 2020 video when Tom Jarrell was in there with Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters about the Mariposa corruption.
Oh, okay. I'll be curious.
If you haven't watched that, I think that's going to open. It's going to expand your mind on our topic. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely come back. Maybe I'll play some of that here, as long as I don't get another Facebook or another YouTube ban.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you the link anyway.
Okay, sounds good. I'll go ahead and shut this recording down. Stephen, go ahead and hang on the line here for a minute.
Yeah.